You were raised on a lie. From the moment you could understand language, society, your parents, and your teachers drilled a specific script into your mind. They told you that if you are kind, the world will be kind to you. They told you that if you turn the other cheek, your enemy will see your virtue and back down. They promised that if you play fair, the referee of life will reward you. Look at your life right now. Look at the people who are winning. Look at the people who take what they want. Are they the ones following those rules, or are they the ones stepping over the people who do? This is the brutal reality of the naive saint. The naive saint operates on a covert contract with the universe. You believe that your submission is actually a currency. You think, I am not aggressive, therefore I am safe. You swallow your anger, you accommodate the disrespect, you overextend yourself for people who would not walk across the street to help you. And deep down, you are waiting. You are waiting for the payoff. You're waiting for someone to acknowledge your sacrifice, but the payoff never comes. Instead, you find yourself exhausted. You find yourself resentful. You watch as the promotion goes to the loudmouth who took credit for your work. You watch as the partner you treated like royalty loses interest and leaves you for someone who treats them with indifference. You are the one who stays late to fix the mistakes of others, yet you are the first one they blame when things go wrong. This is not bad luck. This is a mathematical certainty. When you act as a saint in a world of wolves, you are not projecting virtue. You're projecting availability. You're broadcasting a signal that says, I am a resource to be consumed. I have no boundaries. I have no teeth. To the psychological predator, your kindness does not look like nobility. It looks like an open door. It looks like prey. The psychological mechanism at play here is the violation of reciprocity. You think that by giving 100%, you obligate the other person to give 100% back. But human nature does not respect what is given freely. It respects what is withheld. It respects what must be earned. When you give everything up front, you devalue your own stock. You become the water that comes out of the tap, necessary perhaps, but completely taken for granted until it stops flowing. You're playing a game of chess where you have decided to remove all your own pieces from the board because you do not want to threaten the opponent. You call this morality. The opponent calls it a forfeit. Niccolo Machiavelli saw this delusion centuries ago. He stripped away the romanticism of the philosophers and looked at the cold mechanics of power. He realized that the man who refuses to acknowledge the dark side of human nature is destined to be destroyed by it. He wrote the sentence that should be burned into your mind. A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good. Read that again in your mind. Must necessarily come to grief. It is not a possibility. It is a guarantee. The world is full of people who are not good. This does not mean they are evil villains wringing their hands in the shadows. It means they are self-interested. It means they are driven by ego, by survival, by the desire for status. If you walk among them pretending that everyone operates by your high moral code, you are walking blindfolded into a knife fight. The naive saint believes that their defenselessness is a sign of purity, but goodness without the capacity for force is not virtue, it is incompetence. A rabbit is not virtuous because it does not eat the wolf. The rabbit is harmless because it has no choice. True virtue requires power. It requires the capacity to be dangerous, and the discipline to keep that danger under control. If you are harmless, you are not good. You are just weak. Think of the last time you swallowed your truth to keep the peace. Did it bring you peace? Or did it just delay the conflict until you were even weaker? Every time you smiled when you wanted to scream, you chipped away at your own reality. You taught the wolves that they could bite you, and you would apologize for the taste of your blood. This leads to the suicide of the self. The naive saint eventually burns out, turning bitter and cynical. They scream at the sky, I did everything right. Why is this happening to me? It is happening because you tried to enforce the rules of a nursery school in the middle of a jungle. You must kill the naive saint inside you. This does not mean you become a monster. It means you become a realist. The realist understands that to protect the sheep you must be capable of killing the wolf. You must understand how the wolf thinks. You must anticipate the betrayal, not so you can inflict it, but so you can see it coming 3 moves away. You need to stop viewing your boundaries as acts of aggression. When you say no, you're not being mean, you are establishing your value. When you walk away from a bad deal, you're not being difficult. You're demonstrating self-respect. The wolves will hate this. They will call you selfish. They will try to guilt you back into submission, but they will respect you. And for the first time, you will stop being their food. Drop this in the comments. I am done being prey. This is only the first layer of the illusion we are stripping away. We have accepted that blind goodness is a trap. Now we must look at the specific behaviors that keep you locked in that cage. You have been taught that generosity is the highest ideal, that giving without expectation is the path to heaven. But there is a dark paradox to generosity that destroys the giver and corrupts the receiver. It is the reason why your help is often resented and your gifts are treated with contempt. We are going deeper. You're flooding the market with a currency that is rapidly losing its value. This is the fundamental error of the overgiver. You operate under the delusion that your energy is an infinite resource, and that by pouring it out unconditionally you are purchasing loyalty. You believe that if you give enough of yourself, you will eventually buy a permanent place in the hearts of others. But the human mind does not value what is free. It values what is rare. By being constantly available, you have triggered a psychological mechanism known as hyperinflation of presence. When a government prints too much money, the currency collapses. When you print too much availability, your respect collapses. You answer the phone on the first ring. You agree to the favor before the request is even finished. You apologize for things you did not do. To the observer, this is not kindness. This is desperation. The overgiver is not driven by love. You're driven by a terror of abandonment. You're paying a tax to exist in the room, and the tragedy is that the more you pay, the less you are worth. You attract people who are structurally designed to consume you. The parasites who feel entitled to your time, and the predators who smell your lack of self-preservation. Niccolo Machiavelli deconstructed this trap with terrifying precision. He looked at the princes of his time who tried to be loved through generosity. He saw a fatal cycle. He argued that the leader who seeks a reputation for generosity effectively destroys himself. Why? Because to maintain that reputation, he must give away everything he has. He consumes his own foundation. Machiavelli warned that this road leads to two inevitable outcomes. First, you run out of resources. You become emotionally and physically bankrupt. In the ruthless hierarchy of human behavior, a person who has nothing left to give is not pitied. They are despised. They are viewed as a broken tool. You become the impoverished prince, scorned by the very subjects you fed. But the second outcome is even worse. Did for everyone. You think, after all I did for everyone. You think, after all I did for you, this is how you treat me? You start clawing back validation, guilt-tripping the people around you, demanding they pay you back for loans they never asked you to make. Now, you're not just despised for being weak, you're hated for being manipulative. Machiavelli wrote the diagnosis clearly. It is wiser to have a reputation as a miser, which brings reproach without hatred, than to be compelled to incur the name of rapacity, which begets both reproach and hatred. You must accept the reputation of the miser. In the context of modern psychology, being a miser does not mean being evil. It means being economic. It means you treat your energy like gold, not like water. The sovereign understands that scarcity creates value. Think of the most respected person you know. Do they jump when you call? Do they constantly seek your approval? No. They are guarded. They are selective. When they give you their time, it feels like an event. When they offer a compliment, it hits you with the force of a revelation, because you know it was not cheap. You must stop feeding the entitlement of others. The next time someone demands your time, pause. Do not rush to fill the silence. Do not rush to accommodate. Let the request hang in the air. Let them feel the weight of your assessment. When you say no, do not offer an excuse. An excuse is a negotiation. A no is a boundary. At first, they will be shocked. The people who used you as a convenience store will bang on the locked doors. They will call you arrogant. They will call you cold. Let them. This is the sound of their entitlement dying. By restricting your supply, you're recalibrating your value in their eyes. You're teaching them that access to you is a privilege, not a right. You're moving from the position of the servant who begs to be useful to the position of the sovereign who decides who is worthy of assistance. This is the only way to be truly generous. Because only when you are full, only when you're not dependent on their reaction, can you give a gift that is actually free. Until then, you're just trading favors in a burning market. Close the vault, secure your resources, let them starve for your attention until they learn how to digest it with respect. Drop this in the comments to seal this contract with yourself. I do not buy affection with my depletion. But now that you have closed the vault, a new anxiety begins to rot within you. You feel the cold draft of their disapproval. You panic. A voice in your head whispers that if you are not generous, you will be hated. And if you are hated, you are unsafe. You have been conditioned to believe that being liked is the ultimate shield. You think that if you are pleasant, harmless, and accommodating, the world will treat you with softness. You believe that love is a fortress. This is the lie that leaves you defenseless. Niccolo Machiavelli looked at the human condition without flinching, and he shattered this illusion. He asked a simple, brutal question. Is it better to be loved or feared? Most of you choose love. You bend over backward to be the cool boss, the understanding partner, the chill friend. You think this builds loyalty. You think that by removing all friction, you are creating a bond that cannot be broken. But look closely at what happens when you build a kingdom on the foundation of being liked. When you are the nice leader, your leniency is not interpreted as mercy. It is interpreted as permission. When you forgive incompetence, you do not inspire gratitude. You breed negligence. Your employees, your partners, your peers, they smile at you. They like you, but they do not obey you. When the storm comes, when the pressure mounts, they will abandon you because there is no cost to betraying you. Why? Because love is held by a thread of obligation. It is voluntary. It relies on the other person's sense of duty, their mood, and their gratitude. And as Machiavelli observed, men are wretched creatures. They are greedy, fickle, and self-interested. As long as you benefit them, they are yours. They offer you their blood, their property, their lives, and their children when the need is far distant. But when the danger approaches, they revolt. When their own self-interest clashes with their love for you, the love snaps like a dry twig. They will step over your warm, beating heart to save their own skin. Now consider the alternative. Consider the dynamic of fear. Do not misunderstand this word. In the realm of dark psychology, fear does not mean terror. It does not mean screaming, violence, or tyranny. That is the behavior of a weakling pretending to be strong. Fear, in the Machiavellian sense, means deep consequence. It means the palpable presence of authority. It means being a person who possesses the capacity to punish, to withdraw, to fire, to leave, to deny. When you are feared, you hold the chain. Love is a bond they control. Fear is a bond you control. Machiavelli wrote the code that governs this reality. Love is preserved by the link of obligation which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment which never fails. Think of the most formidable presence in your life. Do you tell them about your mistakes immediately, or do you hide them? You hide them. Why? Because you respect the consequences of their judgment. That hesitation, that tightening in your chest, that is the biological signal of respect. If you are harmless, you're not virtuous. You are merely prey. To be relevant in any hierarchy, you must be dangerous, not malicious, but capable. A sword kept in its sheath is respected not because it is sharp, but because the hand on the hilt knows how to draw it. The nice partner is cheated on because the cheater knows forgiveness is guaranteed. The nice negotiator is crushed because the opponent knows the terms can be changed. The nice man is ignored because his silence can be bought with a smile. You must stop trying to purchase safety with kindness. You must become comfortable with the tension of potential conflict. When you set a boundary and they cross it, there must be a consequence, not a lecture, not a complaint, a consequence. You withdraw your attention, you end the meeting, you rescind the offer, you let the silence stretch until it becomes unbearable. You force them to realize that access to you is contingent on their respect for you. This transition will feel unnatural. You will feel a phantom guilt. You will worry that they think you are mean. Let that worry die. Being mean is emotional reactivity. Being formidable is strategic control. When they realize that you cannot be manipulated by flattery or guilt, the dynamic shifts permanently. They stop looking at you as a resource to be mined and start looking at you as a power to be reckoned with. They may not hug you as often, but they will never interrupt you again. They will weigh their words before they speak to you. And in that space of hesitation, you will find the command you have been searching for. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Because love is a gift they give you and can take away, but fear is a recognition of your power, and that belongs to you alone. Establish the consequence. Be the flame that warms those who respect it and burns those who touch it without permission. Drop this in the comments to signal your shift from the victim to the victor. I choose respect over their approval, but possessing the capacity for consequence is only half the equation. You have learned to be dangerous, to enforce boundaries and to command respect through the threat of withdrawal. You have awakened the lion. However, a lion has a fatal flaw. The lion is loud. The lion announces its presence. The lion charges in a straight line, fueled by pride and raw power. And because of this, the lion is the easiest animal to trap. You have been taught that honesty is a virtue that stands alone. You believe that telling it like it is proves your strength. You walk into meetings, relationships, and conflicts with your cards face up on the table. You reveal your intentions. You announce your distastes. You tell the world exactly who you are and what you want, believing that transparency will be met with fairness. This is not nobility. This is a strategic hemorrhage. By revealing everything, you give your enemies the exact blueprint needed to destroy you. You are the honest fool. You are the soldier who marches into the open field screaming a battle cry, only to be cut down by an archer hidden in the trees. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that the world is not an arena of honourable combat. It is a swamp of deception. Force is useless against a hidden snare. To survive the ecosystem of human ambition, brute strength is not enough. You require a second skin. You must become the fox. The fox does not roar. The fox does not announce its attack. The fox understands the utility of the mask. While the lion relies on claws, the fox relies on the intellect of the trap. Consider the dynamic of playing the fool. When someone lies to you, your instinct is to correct them immediately. You want to prove you are smart. You want to shout, "I know you are lying." This is the reaction of a fragile ego. You gain nothing but a moment of satisfaction, and you lose the ultimate advantage, information. He makes himself appear smaller, slower. He makes himself appear smaller, slower, and less observant than he actually is. Why? Because when your opponent thinks you're stupid, they get sloppy. They become arrogant. They reveal more than they intended because they do not view you as a threat. They lower their guard, exposing their soft underbelly to the knife you're holding behind your back. This is the art of psychological camouflage. You must learn to dissociate your internal reality from your external appearance. If you are angry, appearing angry is a mistake. It warns the enemy to prepare a defense. If you are ambitious, announcing your goal invites sabotage. The most dangerous person in the room is never the one shouting threats. It is the one listening, watching, and calculating the exact coordinate of your vulnerability. If you rely only on being the lion, you will be caught in traps you never saw coming. You will be manipulated by those who know how to provoke your temper. You will be led into battles you cannot win by people who are smarter than you. But if you rely only on being the fox, you become a coward. You become a weasel who is despised for his lack of backbone. You may avoid the trap, but you will not have the strength to kill the wolf when he corners you. The master of dark psychology inhabits the duality. You must slide between these two modes with fluid precision. Machiavelli codified this necessity in his most famous instruction on the nature of princes. One must be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Assess your current behavior. Are you too open? Do you bleed information? When you're frustrated at work, does everyone know it? When you're insecure in a relationship, do you verbalize it immediately? Stop. Every piece of information you withhold is power preserved. Every emotion you mask is a weapon loaded. You must learn to recognize the traps before you roar. The passive-aggressive comment from a colleague is a trap. If you explode, lion, you look unstable. You must sidestep it with wit, fox. The sudden generosity from a rival is a trap. If you accept it blindly, you are indebted. You must analyze the motive. But when the trap is exposed and the enemy is revealed, the time for the fox ends. That is when you unleash the lion. That is when the consequence we spoke of earlier descends with crushing weight. The shock they feel will be total. Because they thought they were dealing with a fool, they will be unprepared for the monster they have just awakened. Never be one thing, be the fog that hides the cliff and the gravity that pulls them down. Drop this in the comments to prove you are watching from the shadows. I see the trap. But seeing the trap is not enough. The fox grants you sight and the lion grants you strength. Yet there remains a specific form of paralysis that destroys even the most capable strategists. It is the paralysis of goodness. You've identified a toxic employee who poisons your team. You have realized your romantic partner drains your vitality and offers nothing but chaos. You know a business deal has turned sour. The fox in you sees the rot. The lion in you wants to destroy it, but you do not strike. Will distance myself gradually, or I will distance myself gradually, or I will give them one more chance to improve, or I will break the news gently over several weeks. You believe this hesitation is mercy. You are wrong. This is not mercy. This is torture disguised as compassion. This is the most dangerous lesson because it forces you to confront the cowardice hidden within your own morality. Imagine a surgeon who needs to amputate a gangrenous limb to save a patient. The compassionate surgeon, afraid to cause pain, decides to cut through the flesh 1 millimeter a day. He saws slowly. He stops when the patient screams. He drags the procedure out over a month to avoid being too harsh. The result is not kindness. The result is agony, infection, and death. The true surgeon cuts deep, cuts fast, and cuts once. The shock is immense. The pain is blinding. But the wound is clean, and the healing begins the moment the blade is lifted. In your life, you are currently the hesitant surgeon. You're dragging out breakups because you cannot bear the guilt of tears. You're keeping incompetent allies close because you fear the confrontation of firing them. You're feeding the rot because you're afraid of the blood. You're confusing your own comfort with their well-being. You delay the execution not to save them, but to save yourself from feeling like the villain. Niccolo Machiavelli observed this fatal error in the leaders of his time. He saw princes who tried to be loved by everyone, only to be despised when the inevitable collapse occurred. He formulated a principle that insults modern sensibilities, but saves lives. Injuries ought to be done all at one time so that, being tasted less, they offend less. This is the doctrine of surgical cruelty. When you must inflict pain, and if you want power, you will eventually have to inflict pain, it must be total, it must be instant, it must be final. If you must fire the employee, you do not put them on a performance improvement plan that you know they will fail. You call them in, you deliver the verdict, you pay the severance, and you escort them out. It is brutal, it is cold, but 10 minutes later they are free to start their new life and your organization is free of the cancer. If you must end a relationship, you do not suggest a break. You do not slowly stop texting. You do not stay friends to soften the blow. That is the rotting tale. You state your departure. You pack your things. You cut the contact. You burn the bridge so completely that there is no temptation to cross it again. The compassionate person leaves the door cracked open, allowing hope to survive. And as long as hope survives, the wound cannot close. The victim stays attached, bleeding out, waiting for a reconciliation that will never come. By trying to be the good guy, you become the architect of their prolonged suffering. The Machiavellian understands that the most human action is the swift swing of the axe. You must learn to numb yourself to the immediate reaction. Of course they will scream. Of course they will call you a monster. Of course they will hate you in that second. Let them. The surgeon does not cry with the patient. The surgeon focuses on the incision. This requires a terrifying level of emotional discipline. You must separate your empathy from your strategy. Empathy says, I don't want to hurt them. Strategy says, the rot must go to save the body. When you execute this principle, a strange psychological shift occurs. If you torment someone slowly with indecision, they will resent you for years. They will view you as weak, manipulative, and confusing. But if you crush the connection instantly, once the shock fades, they will respect the clarity. They will respect the strength it took to make the decision. Human beings can process tragedy. They cannot process ambiguity. Look at your life right now. Where is the rot? Who is the person you have been meaning to cut off for 6 months? What is the habit you have been trying to quit? Every day you wait, the infection spreads. Every day you hesitate, you lose respect for yourself. You're not being patient, you're decomposing. Stop sawing at the limb, raise the blade. Do not apologize for the necessity of the cut. Do not offer explanations that bargain with your resolve. The explanation is the action itself. The shock of the cold steel is the only cure for the fever of indecision. Drop this in the comments if you're ready to hold the knife. I cut the rot, but once the blade has dropped and the rot is severed, you face a new, terrifying silence. The relationship is over. The employee is gone. The conflict is open. Now the dust begins to settle, and you find yourself standing in the wreckage, watching the lines being drawn. Here lies the next great filter where the weak are separated from the powerful. The moment conflict erupts around you, whether it is a corporate restructuring, a family feud, or a shift in your social circle, your instinct screams at you to find cover. You want to hide. You want to play it safe. You tell yourself, I will not get involved. I will stay neutral. I will be the voice of reason. You believe that by taking no side, you are safe from attack. You believe that neutrality is a shield. You're hallucinating. Neutrality is not a shield. Neutrality is a target painted on your back. This is the trap of neutrality. In the chaotic arithmetic of power, the fence-sitter is the most despised creature in the ecosystem. When you refuse to declare your loyalty, you do not gain the respect of both sides. You earn the suspicion of everyone. You think you are being diplomatic. The world sees you as a coward waiting to see who wins. Analyze the mechanics of this failure. Two forces are colliding. If you stay out of it, the winner will not trust you. They know you did not help them when the outcome was uncertain. They see your hesitation as opportunism. When they consolidate their power, you will be the first one they replace, because they need allies who bleed for the cause, not spectators who eat popcorn while they fight. The loser will also despise you. They will blame their defeat on your lack of support. They will see your silence as betrayal. By trying to be a friend to everyone, you have become an enemy to all. Niccolo Machiavelli lived in a time of constant war between city-states. He watched princes try to balance between France and Spain, hoping to survive by not offending either giant. He saw those princes annihilated. He wrote with absolute contempt about the safety of the middle ground. His verdict was mathematical. It will always be more advantageous for you to declare yourself and to make war strenuously. Why? Because human beings crave certainty. We are tribal animals. We trust those who share our enemies. When you choose a side, even if it is the risky side, you gain something the neutral man never possesses: identity. You become defined. You become visible. The fence-sitter has no identity. He is a ghost, shifting with the wind, agreeing with whoever is currently speaking, nodding politely while calculating his exit. This behavior reeks of fear. It signals to the primal brain of everyone in the room that you have no core values, that you can be bought, and that you will fold under pressure. Look at the nice people in your workplace. They smile at the boss, then they nod along when the team complains about the boss. They think they are navigating the politics. In reality, the boss thinks they are weak, and the team thinks they are spies. They have zero political capital. Power respects power, and power requires polarization. You must stop fearing the label of enemy. Having enemies is a sign that you have stood for something. It is proof that you have defined your perimeter. If nobody hates you, nobody knows you. This does not mean you start fights for entertainment. It means that when the fight comes to you, you do not shrink. You assess the landscape, you determine which outcome aligns with your interests, and you commit your resources to that outcome. You must accept that by choosing one path, you are murdering the other. This is the cost of goodness. The cost is that you cannot be good to everyone. To be a loyal ally to one, you must be a threat to another. The fence-sitter tries to keep all doors open. He ends up standing in the hallway, freezing to death. The decisive ally walks through the door and bolts it shut behind him. When you declare your position, a psychological shift occurs in those around you. The people on your side feel safer because your strength is added to theirs. They will fight harder for you because you have exposed yourself for them. You create a bond of blood and risk. Even your enemies will respect you more than they respect the neutral coward. An enemy who declares himself is an honorable threat. A neutral friend is a snake in the grass. Machiavelli warned, "He who is not your friend will demand your neutrality, whilst he who is your friend will entreat you to declare yourself with arms." This is the ultimate test. The person who wants to use you will tell you to stay out of it. They want you weak and isolated. The person who values you will ask you to stand and fight. Stop trying to be the United Nations of your own life. You're not a diplomat. You're a player in a game of dominance. Every time you say, "I don't want to get involved," you're actually saying, "I do not matter." You're resigning your vote in the outcome of your own reality. The next time tension fills the room, do not look at the floor. Do not make a joke to lighten the mood. Do not try to mediate a peace that cannot exist. Look at the conflict, decide who aligns with your future, and step into the fire with them. It is better to be defeated standing for a cause than to be crushed while kneeling in the middle. The defeated can rise again. The neutral are simply trampled by the marching armies of history. Define who you are by defining who you are against. Drop this in the comments if you are finished with the middle ground. I choose my side. You have drawn your line in the sand. You have chosen your allies and identified your enemies, but having the will to fight is not enough. Now you must master the art of how you are seen while you fight. This brings us to the most dangerous illusion of the modern age, the cult of radical honesty. Society tells you to be yourself. It tells you to be transparent. It encourages you to show your wounds, your doubts, and your insecurities to the world in the name of authenticity. This is a lie designed to keep you manageable. In the brutal hierarchy of power, total transparency is not bravery. It is a strategic error. It is blood in the water. Meet the oversharer. He believes that by revealing his weaknesses, he builds trust. He walks into the boardroom or the dinner party and confesses his anxieties. He tells his team he is unsure about the future. He tells a potential partner about his past traumas on the first date. He thinks he is being real. He expects empathy. But the human animal is not wired to follow the wounded. We are wired to follow the strong. When the oversharer exposes his throat, the people around him do not feel closer to him. They feel unsafe. A leader who broadcasts his fear transmits panic to the entire pack. A lover who broadcasts their desperation kills desire instantly. By showing everything, the oversharer loses the mystique required to command respect. He becomes common. He becomes pitiable, and you cannot respect what you pity. Now, observe the architect of reputation. He understands a truth that the honest man finds repulsive. Perception is reality. Cut of the suit, the steadiness of the cut of the suit, the steadiness of the voice, and the calmness of the gaze. So he gives them exactly what they need to see. He constructs a public persona. This is not a lie. It is not fake. It is a curated selection of his strongest traits. It is armor. When chaos erupts, the architect might feel the exact same fear as the oversharer. His heart might be racing, his mind might be screaming, but his face is a mask of absolute glacial calm. He filters his emotions. He does not deny them internally, but he refuses to let them leak externally, because he knows that his composure is the anchor for everyone else in the room. Niccolo Machiavelli deconstructed this theatrical nature of power 5 centuries ago. He observed that the most successful princes were not necessarily the most virtuous men, but they were the best actors. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are, and those few do not dare to set themselves up against the opinion of the majority." Read that again. Everyone sees what you appear to be. The majority of people will never know your soul. They will only know your silhouette. If that silhouette is slouching, apologizing, and explaining itself, they will treat you like a servant. If that silhouette is upright, silent, and decisive, they will treat you like a king. You must learn to separate your private self from your public entity. Your private self is for you, and perhaps for 2 or 3 people you would trust with your life. That is where you can be human. That is where you can bleed. Your public entity is for the world. It is a machine designed to execute your will. It has no doubts. It has no fatigue. It has no need for validation. The reader often struggles with this. You feel like an imposter. You feel that by hiding your flaws, you're being dishonest. Correct your thinking. You're not deceiving them. You're protecting them from your chaos. You're providing the stability they crave. The mob does not want your truth. They want your certainty. Imagine a surgeon entering the operating theatre. Do you want him to be authentic and tell you he is having a bad day and is worried his hands are shaking? No. You want the mask of the god. You want the projection of infallibility? You must become that surgeon in your own life. Stop explaining your motives. Every time you explain, you step down from the position of authority to the position of the accused. The architect acts and lets the action speak. He creates a vacuum of information that others fill with their own fantasies of his power. Mystery is the most potent aphrodisiac and the most terrifying weapon. When you are silent, people lean in. When you are stoic, people project strength onto you. When you are predictable and open, they get bored and look for someone new to play with. The overshare ends up resented because he burdens others with his emotional baggage. The architect is revered because he carries the load without flinching. This requires a terrifying level of self-control. It demands that you murder the part of you that begs to be understood. You do not need to be understood by the masses. You need to be effective. We live in a world of glass houses, where social media demands you stream your breakfast and your breakdown. Resist this. Go dark. Cultivate the shadows. Let them speculate. Let them rumour. Let them wonder who you really are. While they are busy analysing your mask, you are free to manoeuvre behind it, unseen and untouched. You are building a fortress. The public persona is the high wall that keeps the enemy from seeing how many soldiers you actually have inside. It is the strategy of the empty fort. If you look weak, you invite aggression. If you look impenetrable, the predator moves on to easier prey. Your reputation is not something that happens to you. It is a structure you build brick by brick, with every word you choose not to say and every reaction you choose to suppress. Do not be the open book, be the locked vault. Drop this in the comments if you're ready to build the wall. Perception is my weapon. You have built the wall, you have donned the mask, you have learned to move in the shadows and withhold your true self from a world that seeks to consume it. But all of this preparation, all of this psychological armor is meaningless if you fail the final test. The world does not care about your struggle. It does not care about your why. It does not care that you meant well, or that you tried your best, or that you had a heart of gold while you were being crushed. The world asks only one question: did you win? This brings us to the most uncomfortable truth in the history of human behavior, the concept that has been vilified by moralists and teachers for centuries, yet practiced by every successful leader who ever breathed. The end justifies the means. We are taught from childhood that the how matters more than the what. We're told that it is better to lose with honour than to win with cunning. This is slave morality. It is a fairy tale invented to keep the losers content with their chains. In the cold light of reality, history and biology do not record intentions. They record survival. They record victory. Consider the noble failure. He plays by the rules. He is transparent, fair, and endlessly accommodating. He refuses to use manipulation. He refuses to hide his hand. When the crisis hits, when the market crashes or the enemy attacks, he hesitates. He worries that taking decisive, ruthless action would be wrong. He loses. His business collapses. His family loses their security. His vision dies with him. He sits in the rubble of his life, comforting himself with the thought, "At least I remained a good man." But look closer. Was he good? Because of his failure, his employees are jobless. His children are vulnerable. His capacity to do good in the world has been reduced to zero. His incompetence masquerading as morality has caused suffering. Now, observe the victor. He understood the stakes. When the crisis came, he did not hesitate. He used deception to mislead his competitors. He used surgical cruelty to cut the dead weight. He was cold. He was calculating. He did things that would make the noble failure shudder. But he won, and because he won, his company stands. His people are fed. His family is protected. And here is the darkest irony of all. Because he holds the power, he now has the luxury to be generous. He can build schools, fund hospitals, and protect the weak. His ruthless means secured a noble end. The noble failure's good means secured nothing but tragedy. Niccolo Machiavelli saw this hypocrisy clearly. He watched princes rise and fall, and he realized that the common people are seduced by the outcome, never the method. He wrote, "In the actions of all men, and especially of princes, where there is no court of appeal, one judges by the result. If you succeed, the world will invent virtues to describe you. They will call your ruthlessness decisiveness. They will call your deception strategy. They will call your silence wisdom. But if you fail, your virtues become vices. Your honesty becomes naivety. Your kindness becomes weakness. Your hesitation becomes cowardice. You have a moral obligation to be effective. Stop hiding behind your good intentions. Intentions are vapor. Results are concrete. If you truly love your family, your mission, or your values, you do not have the right to lose. You do not have the right to be a victim. You must become the monster to protect the innocent. This is the psychological shift from the victim mindset to the warlord mindset. The victim believes the world should be fair. He cries when it is not. The warlord knows the world is chaotic. He imposes order upon it. The reader often asks, but isn't this evil? Isn't this becoming the very thing I hate? No, power is neutral. It is a sword. In the hands of a tyrant it oppresses. In the hands of a protector it liberates. But if you refuse to pick up the sword because you are afraid of cutting yourself, you leave the weapon on the ground for the tyrant to claim. You have spent these lessons dismantling the weak parts of your psyche. You have killed the need for approval. You have severed the strings of guilt. You have learned to wear the face of the fox and the claws of the lion. Do not apologize for it. The sun is rising over the landscape of your life. The old you, the one who explained, the one who begged, the one who waited for permission, is dead. You are now the architect of the outcome. You judge your actions by a single metric: effectiveness. If kindness works, use kindness. If silence works, use silence. If aggression is required, unleash it without a second of hesitation and without a millisecond of regret. You're no longer a leaf blowing in the wind of other people's emotions. You are the gravity that pulls them into your orbit. The path of power is not lonely if you understand what you're protecting. You're building a fortress where peace can exist, but outside the walls you must be the warrior who keeps the gates. Walk out into the world today. Look at the challenges that have paralyzed you. Look at the people who have intimidated you. They are playing a game of emotions. You are playing a game of outcomes. They're worried about how they look. You are focused on where you stand when the dust settles. Let them have their drama. Let them have their authenticity. Let them have their moral superiority while they sink. You take the victory. Drop this in the comments if you accept the burden of power. I do not try, I execute.